Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVey, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today we have a returning guest that many of you have asked for. Please bring Susan back on. This is Susan Austin Taylor. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being here. I am super excited about this conversation because we're going to talk about some things that we haven't talked about yet on my channel. So I'm going to learn some stuff. Yay! And hopefully all the listeners will learn a few things too. Um, so yes, if this is your first time listening to Susan, we did do an interview called Taking Flight. You are welcome to look that up and listen to that interview. It's about astral projection primarily. And but Susan, could you just share a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background and who you are?
I've been a medium for about 45 years. I'm not practicing that currently. I'm kind of retired from that. I have some other focus now. But I did that for 45 years, and I've been a teacher of astral projection for that same amount of time. I spoke with you before. We spoke about astral projection, and that's something that I started doing as a child. So that was something that actually came pretty natural to me. And I just got very proficient at it and was able to, it was like an astral paramedic service, that I was taught to do. So I did a
Mhm.
lot of that for years and years and years. And so, yeah. But I've written some articles for some, research institutes, and I've spoken at a lot of places, which I love. And it's usually about astral projection or mediumship. This will be a little different.
Yes, this conversation is going to be a little bit different. We might touch on some of those things, but so Kundalini, what is that? Can you define that for me?
Kundalini is it's an it is the divine feminine. It is the divine feminine that everyone has the potential already in them. It's coiled. This energy is coiled. It's an energy that is coiled at the base of our spines. Everyone has it. Has it?
Okay.
It's not active. It's dormant in almost everyone. It activates when it chooses to activate, and it chooses the people that it activates in, based on not just what you've done in this lifetime, but other lifetimes. You kind of work up to it. You know,
Hmm.
you kind of work up to it by and it's grace. It's divine grace, and it is a consciousness. It is an entity. It's, I mean,
Oh,
it's not, yeah, it's, this is a conscious, you, once it happens to you, you're never alone. You're never alone again. You have this living inside of you. It rises, it begins to, when it activates, it leaves its coiled position at the base of the spine and begins to rise up the spine.
hmm.
And when it completes itself, there's a completion. It may take a lifetime or two to complete it. It may complete in
Oh,
a lifetime.
okay.
um, it's um, so you can't really say for sure when the completion will be, but it is, it's a like I said, like I was telling you earlier, there's the vocabulary that we have isn't really sufficient to me to describe all of this. But
Hmm.
it is a, when I learned that it was a consciousness, that, and it's not possession. This is not possession. This is the divine feminine. This is the female aspect of God, is what comes up from inside when it meets
Oh,
the male aspect of God, which comes down eventually and meets it inside. This process is complete, and that's an awakened Kundalini state then.
wow. Okay,
But
everything that you're sharing is new to me, just to make that clear. So I might
the
have some very
process,
basic questions.
okay, yeah, go ahead. The process is, it takes everything that you are. It takes you, you're on every level: physical, mental, emotional, um, psychic, every level, astral, everything. It affects everything.
Oh,
But your body, it will, to accommodate Kundalini, there's a purification process that has to occur. and it will go through your body, and your emotional blockages, past life traumas, all these things have to be cleared out. And so that creates this kind of periods of upheaval. And it's a trauma. It's actually it's a bliss and it's a trauma. It can be very traumatic. It
Before we
can.
talk more about what you're sharing here, would you mind sharing your personal experience?
I will.
Let's start from there, and then like, when did that happen, and did you know what was happening?
It happened to me. The activation happened to me it was about 25 years ago, and I was practicing astral projection at the time.
Okay.
And and I always meditated a little bit before I went out of body. So I was meditating, but it wasn't, I wasn't an intense meditator or anything like that. I wasn't a regimented meditator. I wasn't very disciplined about that. I figured, I would lie down, start to practice astral projection. The period before would be a meditative state, and then go into astral projection. And I did this over and over and over, sometimes 3 times a day for 5 days a week for years. And one day, it was just a normal day. I'd just gone to lay down and practice astral projection. I locked all my doors. I'm home alone, so it's very quiet. So you have a secure environment to do your spiritual practices, And I did lie down and went into my meditative state, and I felt strange. And I thought, well, this might be a new thing that has to do with astral projection. It was just a strange, energetic thing that was going on with me, and I wasn't sure what was happening. But instead of going out of body, I felt this rumbling sensation in the base of my spine, which I'd been feeling for years, but it was just there. I used to vibrate all over my body. Every bone in my body would vibrate for years since I was in my 20s. So it kind of worked up to this. But this day, the rumbling and the base of my spine, you can feel it, and I could hear it internally, And so I thought, okay, well, here this is again. So I'm just going to lie here and let this go away. It didn't go away, though.
So this is different than when people say the vibrational state before they go out of body, and they can get vibrations in different places of their body or all over their body. This is something different.
Completely different. Completely different.
Rumbling. What did it feel like?
It's a vibration. It's almost like a motor. It was
a motor. Okay, but not like the vibrational state before astral projection.
No. It has nothing to do with astral projection. This had nothing at all like the astral projection, frozen state, vibrational state, nothing like that. It's all in your spine. It took place. It started in the base of my spine. I had my eyes closed, and I don't even know how to explain this, but I could see it. I could see the base of my spine inside of myself. I could see this light beginning there, and this rumbling, this movement. It was a roiling kind of a energy. I could see it. And suddenly, after a moment or so, it just began to roar. It was like I don't even have the word for that. It was a
roaring ocean, not like an animal, but more of a
wind. Like wind, something like that. Just a roaring sound, and I could see it come up my spine. I knew that it was coming up my spine.
Okay.
I didn't know what this was at the time. I really didn't.
You're just like, okay, let's go with it.
Yes, I didn't know at that time, and I felt it rush up my spine. It rushed into my head, and it just exploded into my head.
Wow.
I thought my children were at school at that time. They were at school, and I thought, when this happened, since I didn't know what this was at first, for a few minutes, it took me a while to I laid there, but I thought it had an aneurysm or a stroke.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. I seriously thought I had an aneurysm or stroke, and my first thought was for my children who would be coming home from school, and there's mama on the bed and something's happened to her, and but I couldn't move. It was still going on, and I lay there, and it's like, this is not astral projection. I knew after a while, and I opened my eyes and I looked around and I said something out loud. It's like, okay, I can talk, I can think, turn my head, I'm okay. And then I realized I knew what it was. Then I thought, well, this is a Kundalini experience. But I haven't done anything to bring this forward in my life. I haven't done anything. I don't deserve this. I said that to myself. And
So you had learned or read about Kundalini before this experience?
I had talked to friends, a couple of friends, back when I was in my 20s, and they were a lot older than me, studied all these things, and that's what they had told me, that this occurs after you have to do Kundalini meditation, you have to do yoga, you must be every day meditation, devoted to this everything, or this will not happen to you. And so here it happened to me, and I immediately felt a little bit of guilt, like, did I do something to make this, have I done something wrong to activate this when it wasn't time for it? And so what I told myself at that time was, ignore it. Just ignore it. This wasn't supposed to happen, probably. And I didn't even practice astral projection for a month after that, because I was worried about lying back down. I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but it wasn't. This was just the experience. This is where it activated. It actually just went fully active. Boom! It went. The whole thing.
Well, did your life change? Did you feel different? Because again, I know nothing about this, by the way. So did you sense, oh, I feel like a different person, or?
Well, I've always felt like a different person.
Well, I mean, no, from that point on, did you feel even more different?
Yes. From that point on, what happened was the purification process began. And I think that actually the purification process begins a bit, before you go active. But you go into this like an intense purification process, and you can experience deep depression, which I did, anxiety,
Huh.
um, uh, boy, nightmares. I
Oh,
just, but I was still, at the same time, even after this happened, I was still doing a lot of astral projection, a lot. So I was able to maintain all of that while trying to keep this at bay. But I didn't realize for years that all of these things that were happening to me physically, because I had a lot of physical symptoms, that, I had my thyroid tested at one time. I had so many things that they, to try to find out what was going on with me,
okay.
but they couldn't find out what was going
What
on.
can you
What
tell me
was
what some of the physical symptoms
happening?
were or what they could
Oh,
be?
pain in my body.
Pain.
Yes, I had pain in my body. Um, I had a lot of pain at times, and they were looking for an autoimmune disease. Then the doctors were looking for that, and
Okay.
um, I had to see 3 different doctors before the last 2 finally said, no, there's no autoimmune disease at work here. This is
Mm,
maybe it's just a little transient arthritic thing or something like that. And I was
mhm,
like in my 40s at that time.
mhm.
I was in my 40s, and so I was put on medication for that, for the inflammation. Which was
Wow.
terrible. Worst thing I could have done was, put this anti-inflammatory stuff in my
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
all of these things. But I went through periods of great depression,
Wow.
and anxiety, insomnia, just to the point.
Mhm.
Today, my average sleep is 1 or 2 hours sleep a night. Um, and
Oh my.
oh
It
yeah,
doesn't seem like enough.
it doesn't. When you're active in Kundalini, when Kundalini is active in your body, you don't need the same amount of sleep that you did before you went active. You
Oh.
don't need it. But I do feel like I need more than I'm getting, but it's just a transitional period right now, I think, and that will improve. I may go for a couple of weeks like that, and then I'll have one night where I don't even sleep at night. I sleep in the daytime now because my sleep cycle, I
It's
lost my
off.
sleep cycle completely. Yeah.
But you
So
were activated 25 years ago. When did the sleep, insomnia, and all that begin?
I've had insomnia off and on since I was a child. It got worse immediately after the activation. It got worse. So I went to the doctor for that because still didn't know what was happening with me. So I was treated for insomnia
Mm,
also. So I took sleeping pills periodically for years. and it was never good sleep. Um, and I finally, after years of taking those off and on, and I just, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not. I'll just, I'll do whatever I have to. I'll sleep whenever I can. So I started doing that and napping when I could. And the last year has been really intense, because the last year is when I really went ahead and said, okay, um, I have to acknowledge what's happened in my body. This is
Mm.
what's happened. Um, it's, um, I mean, it just moves constantly. It doesn't matter that you have it or whatever. It is going to still progress in your body. It's going to progress, and so you have all kinds of symptoms. I wish heat, cold. Um,
Temperature regulation is
oh,
off.
yeah, your hypothalamus is about your endocrine system is about everything in your body. Every cell in your body is affected by it. There are times when there would be so much energy running through my body that I swore that I could feel every cell in my body.
Mm.
Felt like it was just bursting
Mhm.
with energy, with light, and I couldn't be still. That was another thing. Can't be still in bed, because I began having uh, the movements, the kriyas that go along with Kundalini. There's a period of time where you have these physical bodily movements.
Well, can you
You know,
spell that? What's that word?
Kriyas, kriyas.
Okay.
Yes, and
In
this
case
the
anyone wants to look that up.
yeah, that's the movements. That's the movements that you make, and this happens for a period of time. I don't really know myself, for everybody, for other people that have experienced it, how long it lasts for everybody. I don't know if there's an average or anything. For me, the most of that has been, and then they're almost gone. That's almost cleared out now.
Mm.
But it was about 2 years, almost 2 years. I say a year and a half of that, and just so even when I go to bed to lie down just to relax, try to rest, um, if the kriya started, there's no rest there. That's constant movement. To me, it was constant movement of my legs. It started in my lower body and worked its
Mm.
way up. When it moved out of my lower body, it was such a great relief, because um, it just was. Then it went into my arms and my tongue. There's a your tongue kind of goes spastic in your mouth sometimes, and will jerk from one side to the other. Um, your head may twitch. It's strange, and you don't. It's. I was a little self conscious about it. So I was kind of glad for the last 2 years, COVID, we're at the house and nobody has to see anything weird that I'm doing. Just my husband. My husband's here.
Would you
So,
say,
but
Susan,
yeah.
that this it activated 25 years ago, that the symptoms have gotten worse over time, or it's more of a up and down, depends
Yeah,
on.
up and
Okay.
down. Yeah. Now it's become more profound. I think the experience of it has become more profound. Really made it a point to get some valid information, and to try to understand how I could help further this along, because you can, and even people who are not haven't got active Kundalini in their body. And I've had several people ask me, since I kind of I've never told anybody until recently, and I told just a few people, and they've asked, how do you activate it? How do you? And I've told them all, don't don't even try. You can't do it in the first place. You
Mm.
can't. It's not something that you're supposed to do. It activates when it wants to. But what you do, just prepare the terrain. You're always preparing your body. We're evolving. So we should always be preparing our bodies for any kind of spiritual awakening or
So
growth.
here's a question, Susan, that I really feel like a lot of people are going to be thinking about. I certainly am. We've talked about a lot of the symptoms of a Kundalini awakening. And so far, I have no idea why anyone would do this. What are the benefits? Why would anyone want this or say, oh, yes, I want a Kundalini awakening? What are the benefits to your life?
Um, for me, I mean, I know that there are gifts that come with Kundalini, with an awakened Kundalini. There are psychic gifts, there are things like that, but I was never, that didn't I wasn't worried about that. You know, it's like I've had a lifetime of psychic experiences and a lot
Right.
of, a lot of things. I mean, some things that you wouldn't even believe some of the things, some strange things that I've experienced. But so I wasn't the gifts that may come or may not come. I'm not even concerned with because I feel like I've been blessed. You know, my whole life I've been blessed with amazing experiences, wonderful experiences. But um, it improves your body. It improves your body. It improves your health. While it feels like you have all of this going wrong inside your body, it's actually moving to make everything like it should be, like it can be. It's this potential that we have in us. And once Kundalini awakens and moves up the spine, then all of these things start happening because it's going ahead and clearing the rest of the things, obstacles in your body to this
Mm.
awakening, this awakened state. And you become, when it is, it comes complete through your body and it finishes its process, you are an awakened being in the world. So you're a semi-divine being in the world after you're in a completely awakened Kundalini state, which I am not. I'm active, and I have
Mm.
been for 25 years. So I haven't
Okay.
had the last experience of the divine masculine merging with the divine feminine. I haven't had that yet. I will, that's unmistakable. I haven't had it yet.
Can it happen within a year? Yours has been going on sort of over 25 years. Can this happen instantly?
I'm sure that it probably can. I don't know enough about that because I don't know. I only know one other person myself that I've met who is actually a Kundalini awakened being, and so I've had a chance to get some information. But I'm sure that it happens. It's not a standard process, so I'm sure that it for some people it may happen more quickly than others. Um, and I really don't know. I'm kind of finding out as I go. But
When
what
did
I
you meet this person?
about a year and a half ago. I think about a year and
Okay.
a half ago. I had just gone online to get some information, and I got some very helpful information, and I deeply appreciated that.
Hmm.
But I think it's different. It's probably different with everyone. It would be just like any process that happens, any spiritual process, especially that happens because we're constantly evolving. And if we are, if you're a spiritually minded person, that's has to be your motivation is your evolution, your spiritual evolution. So
Hmm.
once that is in your mind, and that's been what my whole life has been about since I was really old enough to be cognitive of what I thought my life should be. That was kind of my focus. I don't know why, because that was a 5-year-old child, making that decision. This is, my life is a spiritual path. Um, and but the process itself for me has been, if I look back at the last 25 years, it has been traumatic, deeply traumatic. There are periods of just blissful periods of the most wonderful experiences. It does this pendulum swing, and I don't think there's any limit really to what a person can experience. It's so hard to put into words, and that part of why I'm talking about this today is because we don't have enough knowledge of this in this country. I always thought that was another thing that somebody, when the friends that I had spoken to when I was young about this, and they were introducing me to it, a little bit, just telling me a little bit about it. And they told me that it happens to people over in India,
Mm.
that this is common over in India. They know about it, at least in India. It's not common, but they know about it in India. They know all about this. And they
Okay.
acknowledge, love but so that was another thing I told myself. I'm not Indian. I'm not Hindu. I don't. So this was a mistake. It was something I did wrong that caused it. So that caused me that I let that cause me 25 years or 20 years of just a lot of misery, because I wouldn't acknowledge it. I wouldn't acknowledge it for myself. I just wouldn't. And
So how common is this? Do you know from your
it is not
instructor?
common. Yeah, it is
It's
not
not.
common. No, it's not common. I don't know how many awakened Kundalini people there are in the world. I'm not sure, but I know it's not common. And I have heard that there are approximately 22,000 active Kundalini people that have become activated in the world out of approximately close to 8 billion people. There's about
Is this
22,000.
something happening more often, the activation?
I hope so. I really hope so, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have, um, I know that if you talk to someone, I've noticed a curious thing when I've told a couple of people. I've actually told 3 people about this because I just don't, um, it doesn't come up in everyday conversation, and most people wouldn't understand, if you try to tell them about this. But um, I think that this is our this is our destiny. It's always our destiny, because it is present in every person. This coiled energy is present in every person at the base of their spine. It's there. And I have heard that sometimes an accident that disturbs the spinal column or whatever, or great trauma, traumatic physical experience or whatever can trigger Kundalini, but it's not a pleasant experience if it does.
Mm.
Because if it happens naturally, if Kundalini chooses the time to become active in a person, it's still a trauma because there's still a lot of stuff that you go through, but it's Kundalini's in control of it. But I was told that it's a terrible mistake for anybody to try and make it become active by causing an accident for themselves or something. That they would suffer for the rest of their lives if they do that. So I don't recommend anybody try to hurt themselves to make it. So if somebody asks me, what do you do? I just always say, you prepare your terrain, your spiritual terrain and your physical terrain. You prepare the terrain. And so that's the only advice that I have is just, um, if you're living a life of devotion and you have been your whole life or whatever, it can happen at any time. I don't think you can expect it. I don't really think that you can. I mean, if I had meditated my entire life from the time I was 20 years old until now and nothing had happened, I wouldn't have been surprised at all, um, because we don't make it happen. Kundalini chooses the time that each person activates. And I really hope that it's becoming something that more people are doing because we need enlightened people. We need people to move through this process of enlightenment in this world, where we're living in a really messed up time in the world right now. So we need people. We need people, spiritual beings. We need people with great insight and I don't even know what all the benefits are. I've tried. My last year and a half have been just trying to get through the symptoms, these things that have been happening to me. And my worst symptom right now is the extreme heat that I feel in my body, which is most of the time. And then I may do a couple of days out of a month that I'm so cold that I can't warm myself up. It's like having liquid nitrogen running through your bones and your body. It's bone deep. It's a bone deep cold. Um, and when I go to bed now at night, because I am cold at night, I wear long underwear, pajamas, socks, a hat. Um, And if I'm really, really cold, I've got a far infrared heating pad, and I will wrap that around my knees because that seems to be the coldest place in my body is from about a foot above my knees to a foot below. But it doesn't warm them. It will not warm. So I quit that.
Your friend that's you said he's activated. Do these symptoms stop after not the activation, awakened? You said he's awakened. Does it stop the symptoms after that?
I
Awakening?
I honestly don't know. I've never asked about that. I don't know. I would assume that there are still a lot of things that still are ongoing because I think that this is a living consciousness that joins you in your body. You become one with this divine feminine thing. It merges with you. Um, and I think it's, even after a person is awakened, I would think that they're still in a process, because we're still growing, we're always growing. So an awakened state is the desired effect. That is what that's where you want it to go. That is where it will eventually go. But you can't predict that. You don't know when that will happen. And so you just, I do think maybe he, possibly, I've read a little bit. The people that I've read who are awakened are Gopi Krishna. I did read a book about him. He had written an autobiography,
Mhm.
which is very interesting. That's more helpful to me than going online and reading all of the symptoms of a Kundalini awakening, because that's
Yeah.
like going on WebMD, and you're having some symptoms. So you go on WebMD and you read this, and it's like, oh my God, I have this. You can't do that. You can't. You can become familiar with them, but you can't be sure. You
Right.
just can't be sure. But the activation itself is unmistakable. It's unmistakable. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't had it, because I would have thought, well, was that, maybe, because I felt I had vibrating bones. Maybe it's
Mhm.
something like that. And no, it's the back sweep, the full back sweep, and that in the head, all of that is unmistakable. You'll never forget it. I won't forget. I know the exact moment it happened in my life. After all these years, I know the exact moment it happened, and everything that went through my head, everything. And then I remember myself sitting up and saying, I don't deserve this. I haven't lived a whole life of complete devotion. I haven't done yoga. I
And when you
haven't
say complete devotion, can you define what that is? I know what meditation is, but what do you mean by devotion? Like service to others?
service to others, constant service to others, prayer, uh, um, prayer for the world, prayer for others, not just yourself. Um, uh, yeah, that. And I had done a lot of things. I wasn't a bad person. I've always tried to be a good person and everything. And I've had, all kinds of psychic experiences since I was a child.
Yeah.
But this was the one that just I had no frame of reference really, except what I'd been told, and I'd been told wrong, incorrectly.
Mm.
It chooses you when it chooses you, and it happens when it happens, and you don't need to know the reason. Just know that you do. Yes, you deserve it. When it happens, yes, you deserve it.
Now, do you believe that you will be awakened at some point before you die, or can you die without being awakened after
Yes.
activation?
You can die without being completely awakened, and in whichever life, if you're reborn, it will be awake. It'll be active when you're born. You don't
Mm.
have to go through that again. It's active, and you just keep working lifetime after life until it's,
Mm.
completed, until the process is completed. I have no
Mm.
idea if it will complete in this lifetime. I would love for it to, but I
Mhm.
don't know that, and I'm not concerned about it. I'm not concerned about it because this was huge. This much is huge, to have had this happen so many years ago. And I went to acupuncturists, and I went
Mm.
to body talk practitioners, and I
Mhm.
went to um, I've had shamanic
Yeah.
treatment. I
Yeah.
had doctors. I had everything. Nothing. No one picked this up. No
Really?
one. No one picked this up.
Mm.
Now I did have someone, there's some kind of a way that they measure your energetic signature in your body. And I have had someone tell me that I was about 15 years ago, and they told me that I was off the chart energetically.
Hmm.
But, it's like, okay, well, I'm not sure what that means, but whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, but no one ever mentioned Kundalini to me at all. No one picked
Huh.
that up. No one did. And so I never said anything. It's like, okay, well, if nobody's picking this up, I'm not mentioning it. I'm not going to bring it up because I don't know how to explain it. I don't know enough about it. So I've spent all of these years going through the purification process, the purging of it's just the what we go through in menopause as women and the hot flashes and everything are nothing compared to the kind of heat that I've experienced in my body. There were times when I know I joked to my husband. I told him, I said, I feel like I'm going to spontaneously combust. I
Mm.
just, this is so miserable.
Are these physical purgings, cleansing, related to spiritual cleansing, purging, past
Absolutely.
traumas, past life traumas, would you
Yeah,
say?
all
Stuff
of it,
like that?
all of it. Absolutely, all of it. And it goes through your psyche. It goes, it's,
Hmm.
it, yeah, you think, um, it just, it brings up so much stuff, and the things that it brings up in your life that, that need to be cleared from this life, say from this life, traumas that you had or whatever.
Hmm.
You revisit those, and they're still traumatic. They will still be traumatic, but um, the key is just non-resistance to all of it.
Hmm.
It's just non-resistance. If you don't resist it, it may be unpleasant. And I mean, this is a dark night of the soul that can occur several times during this process, and it's a deep, dark night of the soul. It really is.
Do you, is it your understanding that that one has to keep coming back, reincarnating until they become awakened?
I'm not sure about that either. Kind of I wonder about that. I think so, because I think that's part of our human potential as human vehicles. Our human bodies are set up for this. And like I said, it is for a fact. It's coiled at the base of your spine. It's coiled at the base of every single human being's spine. It's coiled. It's there. It's dormant, but it's a possibility. It's there as a possibility. A
Hmm.
promise. And I I I had assumed that yes, eventually everyone has to experience this. I hope so. I hope so. But you should. It's it sounds strange to saying that, because it's traumatic in a lot of ways. It's very traumatic. My appetite. I've gone from skinny to like I'm normal now, to very, very thin. Can't
Hmm.
eat. Can only eat this. Uh, just it's this. There's so many symptoms. I can't even remember all of them now. The mental things, the dreams, the visual things that I could see, because I was used to seeing all of these things astrally when I would project out of body. And I've seen many things over the years. And so I was familiar with all that. It did bother me. But then to start seeing them physically um, was strange. But I still, there again, it's resistance and just, and
Will
yeah.
someone, could someone say to themselves, "Oh, I have all these symptoms, but I've never had a experience what you're sharing, that moment of activation." Will the person absolutely know, "Oh, yes, I remember the activation"?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something you cannot miss it. It's absolutely unmistakable. And I mean, for me, like I said, when it happened, I honestly thought this is what a powerful experience it was, because I could see inside my head when this explosion happened inside my head. It looked
Mm.
like a nuclear bomb had gone off inside my head, and I just said this has to be an aneurysm or
Mhm.
stroke. This is one or the other. And so my thoughts went to my children. It was
Yes.
very powerful to know that's unmistakable. But I do
Okay.
know that a lot of people um, who are having, because I think that we're having, as we're evolving, I think that we're in a heightened state of evolution, spiritual evolution. So
Mhm.
just being in that, even without Kundalini, you're going to experience a lot of the same symptoms,
Mm,
a lot of them.
interesting.
Yeah.
So when you, let's just say you, like your friend, you become awakened during this lifetime.
Mhm.
When you pass over, then what? No more reincarnating? No more need?
I think I'm thinking what I assume, from what I've read since just in the last year or so, that if you become awakened in your lifetime and you can complete the process of Kundalini and you pass away, um, that you don't necessarily have to come back. People that are awakened who do come back for the purpose of helping. Now,
Mm.
at this time, there are a lot of people here that came to help, and they're not Kundalini awakened. They just came
Mhm.
because this is something going on in this planet that's just
Mm.
humongous, that's this transition that's trying to occur.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people on this planet who chose to come here to help with this awakening on the
Mm.
planet. But they're not, most of them aren't Kundalini active. I wasn't Kundalini active until I was in my 40s. Um, but I was told that if you, the trauma with this, the bliss, I'm talking about a lot about the trauma. The bliss is beyond imagination. The bliss is the wonderful parts are so wonderful. This
Oh,
isn't a whole bad experience. There's just a
okay.
lot of stuff that's difficult to get
Okay.
through sometimes. But there's wonderful, wonderful stuff that goes along with it too. The experiences are just amazing, and the
Hmm.
bliss is amazing. But I was told, and I believe this is true, that 33% of everyone who goes becomes Kundalini active in their lifetime will commit suicide because
Oh,
of the psychosis that can go along.
wow.
Because if you're not prepared for it and you don't have any frame of reference, this can create
Hmm.
such mental
Okay.
upheaval
Mhm.
and psychic upheaval, and
Oh.
that 33% of active Kundalini people commit suicide. And I do believe that that's accurate. I
Mm.
do. And then there's another percentage, and I don't know how high that is, of people who experience psychosis, then who go
Mm.
into psychosis, and they are usually part of the medical system after that. And so
Wow.
they don't, yeah. So
Okay. That's, yeah.
but
There's a
it's
lot
a
of seriousness involved with this.
it's very serious, and that's why, when somebody asks me, how do you do this, how do you,
Mhm.
um, I just say, well, why would you, just, it'll happen when
Mm.
it's time for it to happen. But if you want to do
Right.
something to help
Interesting.
yourself, prepare your terrain, purify yourself, eat the right foods, drink pure water, exercise. Kundalini loves exercise. It loves
Okay.
exercise.
Physical health, mental health, emotional health.
Yeah, just try to
Um,
get a really good balanced life and
mhm.
have some, because I think that there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people on the planet right now who are in various stages of spiritual evolution,
Mhm.
and so they're going to experience, just that alone is a huge thing, to know that you're in a spiritual metamorphosis as a human being, as a planet. I think that's
Mhm.
what the shift, all of this that they talk about, the shift or whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, I don't, but um the it's not like it's something that you have to like feel, well, there's something wrong with me because it's not active. That's not true. That's not
Yeah.
true. you're
Yeah.
you're perfectly normal. You're perfectly like you should be. It's just, when it's ready for it to happen, it happens, and you deal with it. You
Yeah,
just,
you had mentioned it as if it's a consciousness, independent consciousness almost.
yes, it is
It's
the
kind of how you described it.
it's individualized divine feminine consciousness in your body that becomes active and merges with you. It merges with your
Merges
consciousness.
with your consciousness.
Yeah, your
Almost sounds
ego has to go.
extraterrestrial in nature.
Yeah, it's not possession. Yeah, there's nothing
Not
about
possession, but it sounds
that.
like otherworldly, like it's not a human
Yeah.
consciousness.
It's not. It's divine
It's
consciousness.
of another a consciousness that has not lived a human life. I guess that's how you might put it. Or maybe not even lived an extraterrestrial life. I don't even know. I don't know how to label it, but it sounds very unique.
It is the divine feminine. That is what it is. It's the divine feminine. It's the goddess energy. It's goddess energy,
Goddess
and it is
energy.
conscious.
Okay.
It will speak. It can communicate with you, and it does. It will communicate with you
Like a
in
higher
its
self
own.
would, or
It replaces your higher self. It replaces your higher self. This becomes everything. This replaces everything
hmm.
that you were doing before. This becomes, because um, the divine energy is flowing through you, and it's trying to perfect your body, perfect your thought processes, perfect your spiritual understanding. It's trying to purify your body.
Hmm.
It's trying to purify your body on all levels. From where I am at this point and for the last 25 years as a process of purification.
Mhm.
But once you get past, you get to a point where the purification is somewhat complete. Um, then it's more expansive after that. I think that
Hmm.
your psychic mind, your emotional mind, your everything, it
Mhm.
just becomes very expansive.
Hmm.
And
Can you recommend any kind of reading for somebody who's listening to this and thinking, "Oh, I want to learn more, but I have no idea what resource I could trust."
well, for me, the best resources for me, I have found sources online. There are good sources online. Um, um, Reading books about people who achieved the awakening, such as Gopi Krishna. I'm trying to think who else. Gopi Krishna, Yogananda wrote about it in his autobiography of yoga. Um, but I've read books because I like to read someone's personal experience. I don't really want to read the
Yeah.
symptoms and the I don't want to see an analytical breakdown so much. I want to read how someone got through this,
Yeah.
and how it moved through them and how the process happened for them. So
Yeah.
that's been more helpful for me than anything. It's very
Mhm.
helpful to have someone to talk to. I have talked to a
Mhm.
few people online, and I just recommend you, if you go online, you really go with your gut, because
Okay.
um, you're great. If you're in a spiritual mindset, you're guided. You're guided, and you trust your gut, and but Eastern sources weren't as helpful because the vocabulary, I don't know that vocabulary well. I know some of those words, that they go along with this, but I prefer it in language that, is common, is everyday to me.
Mhm.
And there's not a lot of that, but there's some out there. There is some of that out there.
Would it be okay if the listeners, if they might want to contact you personally and
Yeah.
ask questions?
Well, yeah, I'll tell them what I know,
Okay.
that's all I can tell them is what I know and what I've experienced. That's all I ever talk about when I do any kind of interview. Is if I've experienced it, I will share it,
Okay.
and
So I'll
yeah,
leave your email and maybe Facebook or
absolutely.
something like that.
Sure. Yeah,
One
that's
or one
fine.
or both.
Your email. Yeah.
In the video description. So this has been so interesting, but
Yeah.
I really want you to, because we're, believe it or not, already out of time, but I really would love you to, with some, to leave you with some last words, anything else on your heart that you're thinking, oh, I really want to make sure this is said, that I share this.
Well, um, I want people to understand that it's not common. So because it's kind of a lot of what I've read online, it's kind of like the uh, it's kind of a faddish thing almost now. That's the thing that people are going for now. It's like, okay,
Mm.
well, let's go for Kundalini now. But it doesn't happen that way. Other things do. You can develop astral projection abilities. You
Mhm.
can develop psychic abilities. You can do that. But Kundalini is a different thing because it's a separate consciousness. It has to do it itself. So it's not as common. So if you think you're having symptoms, watch it. I would watch it. Sure, I would watch that. And if you even think it's a possibility, do the things that you need to do. Um, you know, uh, Meditate a little bit. You don't have to be, just obsessed with it, but meditate. Purify your body. Eat good foods. Drink water. No alcohol. No tobacco. No drugs. None of
You
the
just
bad.
lost half the audience. No, just kidding.
But it's part of the discipline. It is a discipline, so that's part of what you have to do. It does not like any of that, so it's, yeah, it's but you can find, and they can talk to me.
Okay.
I just I wanted people to know that this can happen to someone, and you can go for a very long time without realizing what has happened to you. And
Yeah,
I
sounds like it.
doctors, lots of people.
Hmm.
And when I finally realized what was happening, I kind of hit a mini jet stream. And I felt like things really started to move then, once I understood. But I didn't,
Yeah.
I denied it for a very long time because
Okay.
this doesn't happen to American people, but it does. It
Right.
can. It can happen to anyone, anywhere in the world, you know?
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for giving us some insight into this topic that I really know nothing about. And I don't know, maybe some people do out there and some
Yeah.
don't. So I just
Yeah.
have really enjoyed this conversation, Susan. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
and your time.
Thank you. No, I'm really glad to be here. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. So I hope
Good.
I've kind of not confused anybody or anything. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone watching. This has been Julie McVey with Unordinary Made Ordinary. I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. And if you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel. And I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.